The Death of the Stoic Man. Pick out any random selection of mainstream movies that are more than 10 or 15 years old and give them a watch. Now pay particular attention to the men in those movies. Watch how they act.
Sorry, did he just fucking say the stoic man with an image of fucking Mel Gibson from Lethal Weapon on the screen at the same fucking time?
Oh, what do you want to hear, man? Do you want to hear that sometimes I think about eating a bullet? Well, I do. I even got a special one for the occasion with a hollow point, look. Make sure it blows the back of my goddamn head out, do the job right. Every single day I wake up and I think of a reason not to do it. Every single day.
Trope number 1. The Death of the Stoic Man.
Go ahead, pal. Be my guest. You shouldn't tempt me, man. Put it in your mouth. Under the chin. Yeah, under the chin.
Pick out any random selection of mainstream movies that are more than 10 or 15 years old. Pay particular attention to the men in those movies. Watch how they act.
Ow!
Hey, you want to see crazy? I'll tell you.
The critical drinker is not only a bad critic, but a bad influence on culture in general. The more you watch, the more it becomes clear that he has an agenda. And that agenda has nothing to do with being a fair and honest media critic, but rather to push the idea that women in non-traditional roles are somehow a bad thing. The idea that somehow because straight white men are mildly less prominent in starring media roles nowadays, that this is automatically a bad thing, is a dumb idea. And while it is true that straight white men are less likely to be starring in a movie than they used to, this change is actually very slight. Straight white men still have ample representation, but just every once in a while there will be a popular property that the idea that we can all be equal and share in the spotlight seems pretty good to me. Apparently it doesn't seem that way to Will Jordan.
But attacking women for being in non-traditional roles isn't his only angle. And it was very helpful of him to make a video essay going over his other angle to bash media. Why modern movies suck. They hate men, part 1. In this video, he makes the claim that Hollywood is emasculating men. Some of his examples include Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi, Rocky from Creed, James Bond from the Daniel Craig series, and Jaskier, The Witcher.
And truly, what more quintessential example could I possibly give to start things off than Luke Skywalker, who went from one of the most iconic and beloved heroes in all of cinema to a sad, broken, miserable, and forlorn man.
He talks about how Luke Skywalker goes from a badass Jedi in Return of the Jedi to a hermit in The Last Jedi, and ignores his entire character arc in that movie, which ends with him literally doing the most badass thing ever seen by any character in Star Wars ever. He faces down the entire First Order army, and to be even more badass than that, he's openly playing and mocking them. The entire army is literally no threat to Luke. How does that not play into a male power fantasy? Listen, you don't even need to agree with me that Luke was badass, because it's fine if people don't like how he was handled in that movie. However, the drinker completely misconstrues reality. He bashes how Luke is characterized in the beginning of the movie, but then doesn't even mention where Luke ends up, which, whether you like it or not, is objectively not where he started off. Not only that, but if the drinker expected to see Luke win the day with violence, which is typically associated with the male action hero, he must have forgotten how Luke won the day in Return of the Jedi.
Never.
He won when he chose to not kill his father. He won when he threw his lightsaber down. That was the last time we saw Luke Skywalker, was him choosing nonviolence. So the next time we see Luke Skywalker, when he once again throws his lightsaber, he is simply maintaining his growth that we saw established in the original trilogy. He also wins using nonviolence in The Last Jedi. He projected his consciousness and his likeness, which went unnoticed by Kylo Ren, across the motherfucking galaxy, giving the Resistance a chance to escape, and in so doing, mocked Kylo Ren while inspiring the new rebellion. He did all that without betraying that character progression from the original trilogy.
It's like poetry, so if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one.
Or how about Rocky Balboa, the ultimate underdog and symbol of scrappy, determined optimism? A man who fought his way to the top through sheer determination and willpower, taking down men bigger and stronger than himself through sheer
and showing no emotion.
Yo, Adrian! I did it!
That Rocky was famously a guy with zero emotion.
I don't believe in myself no more, don't you understand?
Ever.
What are you putting me through, Adrian?
Ever.
Yeah. I'm afraid! Alright?
Then you get to something like Creed, where he's portrayed as a sad, lonely old man who's given up on life. A man who isn't...
Because his wife is dead, he's an old man,
Yeah.
It's not the same situation.
That's just where he starts. Does this guy not understand fucking character arcs or what?
In Creed, Rocky is an old man who has lost everyone he ever cared about, and when he's diagnosed with cancer, which is what his wife died of, he decides he's fine letting the cancer run its course, and this being the end of the road. But again, this is the beginning of his character arc in this movie. But a large part of his character arc in this movie is that he now has a new family with Adonis Creed, and that he should keep fighting. Which is literally what happens in the movie. This movie isn't emasculating Rocky, it's giving him one last fight, a fight that he wins. And Rocky has never been about not falling down. Rocky loses many fights throughout the franchise, he hits rock bottom a lot, but he always pulls himself back out. That's literally who he is. Yes, he falls down in this movie and is about to give up, but in true Rocky fashion, he pulls himself out of the gutter and decides to keep going. If that isn't Rocky, then I don't know who is.
He is proud, he has a big heart, he is prone to emotion, and without those who give him heart, he is nothing. When he gets the cancer diagnosis, he's finally done. Deflated. Mickey is gone, Adrian is gone, Paulie is gone, Apollo is gone. Everyone he has ever loved or who has loved him is gone, and he just wants to lay down and go to be with them. And so this is where I fundamentally disagree with the drinker. Rocky is not retconned here. He is as true to his core as he has ever been. Rocky is a man who needs his friends and family to shore up the inner strength he already has. He needs them to patch up and weld together the broken bits of the man he is until he stands tall and shining in the sun. They hold him up. They give him something he needs to become greater than his parts. In short, it's like Rocky said.
I don't know, without you being here, probably I wouldn't be here either, you know?
As for Daniel Craig's James Bond, this argument is weird to say the least. He says Bond is emasculated because he pines for Vesper Lynd. And while Bond is always portrayed as a womanizer, even Daniel Craig, the idea that he would get hung up on a woman isn't unheard of. In 1969's On Her Majesty's Secret Service, he meets Diana Riggs Tracy, an actress famous for her roles as Emma Peel in The Avengers and Olenna Tyrell in Game of Thrones. She is the Bond girl for that film. But what makes her different is that Bond marries her at the end of the movie. He decides he is done with the womanizing and will be happy with her for the rest of his life. That is, until Blofeld's men pop up and assassinate him. Literally, the next movie, Diamonds Are Forever, starts with Bond on a revenge mission to kill Blofeld. Tracy is brought up numerous times throughout the series, with the last mention of her being in Timothy Dalton's License to Kill in 1989. So somehow saying Craig's Bond is emasculated because he gets hung up on Vesper Lynd would mean that Bond has been emasculated since 1969.
I'm gonna know that you don't scratch your fucking balls.
And as for Jaskier, he's a character on The Witcher. The Witcher is a series starring Henry Cavill as Geralt of Rivia, who is a brave, stoic monster hunter. I don't know if any character fits the definition of male power fantasy better than him. The drinker of course knows this because he purposefully chose this scene for his editing.
In writing terms, this is what we refer to as stoicism. A stoic character is one that's generally reserved and emotionally distant, the kind of person who bears their troubles and discomforts without too much complaining. It's a character type most commonly associated with traditional ideas of masculine behaviour. Why? Because that's how men generally act around each other. Now take a look at men in mainstream movies today, and pay attention to the same aspects that you looked at before.
Oh, okay, yeah. Who's that shoulder?
He's talking about the stoic man, and Henry Cavill, who plays Geralt in the Witcher series, exactly fits his definition of the stoic man. Why is he cutting around Geralt? Because Geralt would destroy his argument.
It's very obvious he has a right-wing slant, but the interesting thing is every time I make a video on this guy, his fans always reply in the comments, "Critical Drinker is right-wing? How?" And it's like, did you just hear me say Critical Drinker is right-wing, pause the video, comment that, and then stop watching? Like, are you not even going to watch the video to see, like, the arguments? Okay, I don't know. Videos like this, when I cover larger YouTubers, don't tend to have the fans of those YouTubers actually watch the video. They just kind of brigade the comments section with hate comments and snide remarks.
The greatest mob the kingdom had ever seen gathered at the gates of the castle, demanding the young woman's head. And the king and queen, desperate to stay on their shiny throne, finally gave them what they wanted.
His view on this situation is that he's annoyed that this occurred, and he's even more so annoyed with the outcome, calling the Disney showrunners cowards for bowing down to the cult's demands. Now's a good time to show this clip of the drinker talking about the mob mentality in a positive light when he happens to agree with their demands.
But it's like they put that in the trailer, they showed that stuff, and the reaction was apocalyptic. Like, fans absolutely lambasted the game as ridiculous, and it sold terribly as a result. You know, so that these things can happen. The backlash works in some cases.
That's what's actually important to any piece of entertainment, and if you start dismissing and shitting on stuff simply for what it contains, rather than how it's been put together, then all you're doing is undermining and discrediting legitimate criticism.
Awesome! Critical Drinker, you just disproved your entire fucking career. Good job, dude. Good job.
If you let yourself become the boy who cried woke, then nobody's going to take you seriously when you come to point out genuine problems and shortcomings.
Yes! Yes, Will. That's it. So stop claiming the message for everything, bro. Oh my god.
And the easier it becomes for all of that stuff to start creeping back in again. So I guess ultimately, my key takeaway from this whole thing is nuance. It's about having the common sense.
I love that, because you keep on saying nuance and then you apply none of it.
Or how about Dr. Henry Wu, the brilliant genetic engineer who made Jurassic...
Yeah, you know that guy who had like a 2-second scene in the first Jurassic Park? I was invested to see how his character would progress.
Except it turns out that he wasn't actually all that brilliant after all, because all he really did was piggyback off the research of Charlotte Lockwood,
You mean how fucking science works, you fucking moron? Like,
how
what
society works. Everything's built on everything we've built before. We don't reinvent the wheel every fucking generation, you know?
Every successful scientist just from scratch. They didn't take what, came before. Like, I know that this guy worked on this before, but I'm not gonna use what he did. I'm just starting from scratch, you guys. Gonna go from there. Stephen Hawking, right? He said, he was like, fuck all that Copernicus shit. I don't know. But yeah, it really is like Tom Clancy, just knockoff shit, right? Like, here's one. Something to die for.
Oh, wow. Look at that cover.
This is how it ends. No running, no second chances. He's in shadows. He's in his tank top because spies walk around at the Washington Monument with their gun out in tight jeans and a tank top.
That tank top thing that the Red Letter Media talks about with every terrible movie.
Oh my God, that's true.
A black tank top.
At one point, he has a black tank top on to show off his...
Just like Getaven.
Just like Getaven. If this is like a thing where there's a delusional director who thinks they're a badass,
about black tank tops,
and then black tank tops is also a thing. It's some kind of like mental problem that's a reoccurring, like diagnosable problem.
I wonder.
Like the psychologist is like sitting there like, do you often wear a black tank top during your films?
Neil Breen wears black tank tops.
Yeah.
Yes.
Neil Breen wears black tank tops.
Okay.
We have a pattern now. We have a pattern now of delusional behavior by these fucking weirdos.
He's appealing to emotions, these vague gestures toward You know, something that feels true if you don't think about it too hard.
Probably stuff like that. What am I thinking of? But yeah, like it. And like, like Chinese, I think.